In the year 356 BC, in the ancient kingdom of Macedonia, a child was born who would change the course of human history forever. His name was Alexander, son of King Philip II of Macedon and Queen Olympias. On the very night Alexander was born, legends say the Temple of Artemis, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, burned down, an omen that something extraordinary had entered the world. From the beginning, Alexander's life was surrounded by mystery, ambition, and destiny. His mother, Olympias, believed he was not an ordinary child. She told him stories that his true father was Zeus, the king of the gods, who had visited her in the form of a thunderbolt. Whether myth or imagination, these stories planted in Alexander a belief that he was meant for greatness. Alexander was raised in a royal court filled with politics, war, and ambition. His father, Philip II, was a brilliant military commander who transformed Macedonia from a weak kingdom into a powerful military state. Philip believed that strength, discipline, and strategy were the foundations of leadership. As a child, Alexander was not satisfied with games or luxury. He was intense, curious, and fiercely competitive. When he was only 10 years old, a wild horse named Bucephalus arrived at the Macedonian court. The horse was so aggressive that no one could ride it. While others failed, young Alexander noticed something no one else had. Bucephalus was afraid of his own shadow. Alexander turned the horse toward the sun, calmed it, and rode it successfully. His father, amazed, reportedly said, "My son, seek a kingdom worthy of yourself. Macedonia is too small for you." Bucephalus would later become Alexander's most loyal companion, carrying him into countless battles. At the age of 13, Alexander's education was entrusted to one of the greatest minds in history, Aristotle. Under Aristotle's guidance, Alexander studied philosophy, science, medicine, ethics, politics, and literature. He became deeply inspired by Homer's Iliad, especially the hero Achilles, whom he saw as his role model. Alexander didn't just want to rule, he wanted to understand the world. He believed that a great king must also be a thinker. Aristotle taught him that leadership was not only about power, but about wisdom and responsibility. Yet while his mind was sharpened by philosophy, his body and spirit were forged by war. Philip II was a powerful king, but he was also ruthless, politically cunning, and deeply flawed. His many marriages and political alliances created tension within the royal family. Alexander watched carefully, learning how power worked and how betrayal could destroy it. At just 16 years old, Alexander was left in charge of Macedonia while his father was away. When a rebellion broke out, Alexander crushed it decisively, founding a city named Alexandropolis in his honor. 2 years later, at the Battle of Chaeronea 338 BC, Alexander led the cavalry charge that shattered the Greek alliance against Macedonia. Though still a teenager, proved himself a commander of exceptional courage and skill. But fate intervened suddenly. In 336 BC, King Philip II was assassinated during a royal celebration. The kingdom was thrown into chaos. Enemies inside and outside Macedonia believed the young prince would fail. They were wrong. At only 20 years old, Alexander became king. His first act was swift and brutal. He eliminated all rivals to secure his throne. When Greek cities revolted, Alexander marched south. The city of Thebes resisted him, and Alexander destroyed it completely, sparing only temples and poets. The message was clear. Resistance meant destruction. Greece submitted. Alexander was now free to pursue his true ambition, the conquest of Persia, the greatest empire the world had ever known. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia with an army of about 40,000 men. Before stepping onto Persian soil, he threw his spear into the ground and declared Asia a gift from the gods. His first major battle was at the Granicus River, where he personally led a daring charge against Persian forces. Despite being wounded, Alexander emerged victorious. This victory opened Asia Minor to him. City after city surrendered. Alexander presented himself not as a destroyer, but as a liberator, respecting local customs and religions. The Persian emperor, Darius III, ruler of a vast empire, finally confronted Alexander at the Battle of Issus, 333 BC. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Alexander used superior tactics and speed. When Alexander charged directly toward Darius, the Persian king panicked and fled. The battle was won. Alexander captured Darius's family, but treated them with respect and honor-earning admiration. Even among his enemies, one of Alexander's most legendary feats was the Siege of Tyre, a powerful island city that resisted him for 7 months. Alexander ordered the construction of a massive causeway across the sea, an engineering marvel. When Tyre finally fell, Alexander punished the city harshly, showing that mercy had limits. From there, he marched into Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator. The Egyptians crowned him pharaoh, and priests declared him the son of Ammon. Reinforcing his belief in divine destiny, in Egypt, he founded the city of Alexandria, which would become one of the greatest centers of knowledge in the ancient world. In 331 BC, Alexander faced Darius one final time at the Battle of Gaugamela. Once again outnumbered, Alexander used brilliant strategy to break the Persian lines. Darius fled again, and this time his empire collapsed. Alexander entered Babylon, Susa and Persepolis, the heart of Persia. In a moment still debated by historians, Persepolis was burned thither as revenge for past Persian invasions or as a drunken act of symbolism. Alexander now ruled the largest empire the world had ever seen. Alexander did not stop. He pushed eastward into Central Asia, facing fierce resistance. He adopted Persian customs, married Roxana, and encouraged unity between Greeks and Persians. But this change caused tension. His own men felt alienated. His closest friend, Hephaestion, remained loyal, but others grew distant. Alexander became harsher, more paranoid, and more absolute in his authority. In 326 BC, Alexander entered India, fighting King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes River. Despite facing war elephants, Alexander won through strategy and courage, impressed by Porus's bravery. Alexander allowed him to rule as a governor, but his army was exhausted. When they reached the Hydaspes River, his soldiers refused to go further. For the first time, Alexander had to turn back. The return journey was brutal. Thousands died crossing deserts. In 324 BC, Alexander suffered a devastating loss. Hephaestion died. Alexander was broken. In 323 BC, while in Babylon, Alexander fell ill. After days of fever, he died at the age of 32. When asked who should inherit his empire, he reportedly whispered, "To the strongest." Alexander's empire collapsed after his death, divided among his generals. But his influence never died. He spread Greek culture, language, and ideas across continents. The Hellenistic world he created shaped art, science, politics, and philosophy for centuries. Alexander the Great did not just conquer land, he changed civilization. He lived fast, conquered endlessly, and died young but in his short life. He became immortal. Alexander once said, "There is nothing impossible to him who will try." More than 2,300 years later, the world still remembers his name.